Elon Musk, the man the world sees as a visionary, a dreamer who turned the impossible into blueprints and the blueprints into fire that touched the sky. But behind the brilliance, behind the headlines and the rockets, there is a man who has carried too much in silence. He has built empires, yet lost the quiet spaces where love once lived. He has reached for the stars, but sometimes, in the stillness between launches, he wonders if he forgot how to reach for someone's hand. This is not the Elon you see in interviews or on stages. This is the one who stayed awake at 3 a.m., staring at the empty side of the bed, asking if genius was worth the loneliness it brought. Tonight, he doesn't speak as an engineer or an icon. He speaks as a man who once found love so rare it terrified him. And though the world calls him a machine of progress, his heart beats with memories he can't rebuild, with words he never said until now. This is his confession. A letter to the woman he loved, and the universe he built just to feel close to her again. There's a silence that follows every launch, the kind that fills the air after the fire fades, after the engines stop roaring and the sky swallows the noise. It's in that silence that I've come to realize what creation truly costs. For every idea that took flight, there were nights that never ended. For every dream I built, there was something human I left waiting. A voice I didn't hear. A touch I didn't return. A moment I let pass because I thought there would always be time. They say ambition burns bright. They never tell you how it scorches everything it touches. I spent years chasing the horizon, believing that if I just built enough, if I just solved enough, I'd finally arrive at peace. But peace isn't something you reach, it's something you hold, and I lost the strength to hold it somewhere along the way. I became fluent in equations, fluent in vision, fluent in defiance, but illiterate in stillness. I used to think love was a distraction, that the heart could wait while the mind worked. But the truth is, the mind was only ever trying to build what the heart had already lost. Every rocket, every invention, they were just messages sent to the stars, searching for an echo, searching for her. You see, creation is a kind of confession. Every invention I made was me trying to say what words never could. I don't want to be alone in the universe. I built machines to connect humanity, but somewhere along the way, I disconnected from myself. I forgot what it meant to simply sit beside someone in silence and feel understood. There were nights when the lab lights hummed louder than my own heartbeat, and I'd stare at the metal and fire I created, realizing it couldn't love me back. Progress demands sacrifice, but I never knew it would ask for tenderness, too. It takes everything, your time, your youth, all your laughter, and it doesn't return them. It only gives you milestones to decorate the emptiness with. And yet, beneath all the noise, there was always her face, soft, unspoken, unwavering, the only constant in a life defined by motion. When I think of her, I think of balance, how she saw humanity in my chaos, how she reminded me that even stars burn out if they forget to rest. Sometimes I wonder if she ever understood that every risk I took, every boundary I broke, was not just for the future of mankind, but for the chance to be worthy of love. The irony is cruel. I built bridges between planets, but forgot how to cross the distance between two hearts. Now, as the world celebrates the man who touched the stars, I am haunted by the spaces between them, by the echoes of laughter in empty rooms, by the warmth I traded for light. Creation gave me everything, except the one thing I can't invent, a way to go back. That's the paradox of progress. It propels you forward, even when your heart lingers behind. And in that quiet, after all the rockets and revolutions, I hear the truth. I spent a lifetime avoiding that the greatest discovery isn't out there among the galaxies. It's in the fragile act of loving someone while the world demands everything from you. The engines have cooled. The sky has gone silent. And in that silence, I finally understand what I've lost. Success has a sound, the roar of applause, the hum of machines, the endless rhythm of progress. But when the echoes fade, what remains is silence, vast, unrelenting, and heavy. I used to think that silence meant peace. Now I know it's the weight of everything left unsaid. People see the headlines, the rockets, the triumphs. They call it genius, destiny, innovation. They don't see the nights when I stare out the window of an empty office, watching the world spin without me in it. They don't see the unanswered messages, the birthdays missed, the soft voices I once loved slipping into memory. Success demands attention, but it never gives you affection in return. I remember the first time I stood alone after a launch, the sky still glowing faintly with fire, the crowd gone home. It should have felt like victory, but all I could feel was distance. The kind that no technology could bridge. Humanity was one step closer to the stars, but I was another step further from myself. There's a loneliness that no amount of progress can cure. It hides behind screens and achievements, disguised as purpose. But late at night, when the hum of the machines quiets and the city sleeps, it comes for you. It asks questions you can't answer. Who are you when the work is done? Who holds you when the world applauds? I tried to fill the silence with projects, ideas, people, anything that could drown out the ache. But the truth is, no invention can replace connection. You can build rockets, cars, make cities beneath the earth, but you can't engineer a heartbeat. You can't manufacture warmth. You can't automate love. I used to tell myself that solitude was the price of vision, that only those who walk alone can see the future clearly. But vision without touch is blindness in another form. I've learned that distance doesn't just separate you from others, it separates you from the part of yourself that still remembers how to feel. Sometimes I replay old moments in my mind, laughter in a dim cafe, the sound of rain on the glass, her voice saying my name like it was something sacred. I tell myself, I can rebuild anything, but not that. You can't rebuild presence. You can't resurrect time. It's strange how silence can grow louder than any crowd. It hums in the space between accomplishments, reminding you that success without soul is just survival in disguise. I've watched rockets pierce the sky with perfect precision, and yet I envy their briefness. Their fire burns bright, but at least they know where they're going. Me, I've been orbiting my own creation, circling endlessly, afraid to land. Because landing means facing the wreckage I left behind. The truth is, I didn't fear failure, I feared stillness. Because stillness meant feeling everything I'd buried beneath ambition, the love I neglected, the words I never said, the tenderness I couldn't express. It's easier to keep building, to keep running, than to sit in the quiet and admit you're lonely. And yet, even in this isolation, something stirs a faint signal breaking through the static. Maybe it's her. Maybe it's the part of me that refuses to believe that all this was for nothing. The silence that once felt like punishment begins to sound like possibility, a blank page waiting for something real to be written again. Because somewhere beyond the applause and the algorithms, there's a truth that hums quietly beneath it all. Progress means nothing if there's no one to share it with. Love doesn't end like an explosion. It fades like the last echo of a rocket, slowly, quietly, beautifully tragic. One day you wake up, and the laughter that used to fill your mornings is gone. The warmth that once felt infinite now feels like a distant star, visible but unreachable. I used to believe I could rebuild anything I broke, but love isn't a machine. It doesn't wait in pieces, ready for repair. It disappears in the spaces between what was said and what should have been. There was a moment I can still feel it when she looked at me, not with anger, but with something worse. Disappointment. The kind that says, you chose the world, and I wasn't in it. She never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Her silence carried the weight of everything I'd forgotten to give. And I, The man who could design engines powerful enough to leave the planet stood there, powerless to make her stay. People think heartbreak is loud, but it's not. It's quiet. It's the sound of an unanswered message. It's the space beside you in bed. It's the realization that you can calculate the trajectory of a rocket, but not the distance love can fall before it breaks. I kept myself busy, that's how I grieved. I poured my sorrow into circuits and algorithms, convincing myself that progress could drown the pain. But love doesn't vanish with distraction. It lingers, coded deep into your memory. Every success after her felt incomplete, like a song missing its final note. The world clapped, but my heart stayed still. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of her name in an email, in a headline, in a stranger's voice, and for a split second, I'd forget everything else. It's strange how memory can resurrect a ghost with such clarity you'd swear she was still there, whispering your name through the static of time. There were nights I stood on the balcony, staring at the same stars we once watched together. I used to tell her the stars were maps, destinations waiting to be reached, but now I know they're mirrors, each one reflecting what we've lost and what we still long for. I saw her face in those constellations, and for a moment I believed I could reach her again. But no matter how high I build, no rocket can bring back what time has taken. I tried to write her once, not to win her back, but to say what I never said. I'm sorry. Sorry for choosing the sky over the soul that anchored me. Sorry for mistaking distance for destiny. Sorry for thinking love could wait while I built a future that no longer had her in it. But the words never left the page. I realized I wasn't writing to her anymore. I was writing to the version of myself that forgot how to love while chasing the impossible. There's a cruel beauty in loss. It humbles you. It strips you of illusion, of pride, of the belief that time will always forgive. It teaches you that no matter how far you travel, some things can't be retrieved. Now, when I hear the thunder of a rocket leaving Earth, I feel both awe and ache, because I know what it means to launch something beyond your reach and to live with the silence that follows. She was the one mission I never completed, and maybe, in some quiet corner of the universe, that's how love survives as the unfinished story that keeps your heart orbiting forever. Time has a way of folding in on itself. You think you've moved on, that the noise, the work, the passing of years has buried the past, but memory doesn't fade. It orbits. It circles back, silent and certain, pulling you toward what you thought you'd escaped. That's how it is with her. No matter how far I go, her memory finds me. Like gravity, it keeps me tethered to the part of my soul I tried to leave behind. I still remember the little things, the way she'd pause before she laughed, the way her eyes carried constellations of their own. She once told me that stars are just stories written in light. I didn't understand then. I do now. Every memory of her is a flicker, brief, brilliant, impossible to forget. I used to map out the heavens looking for new worlds, not realizing the brightest one I'd ever known was right beside me, and I let it drift away. Sometimes I close my eyes, and I can still hear her voice, soft, calm, cutting through the static of my thoughts. She'd say things like, "Elon, the world doesn't need more speed, it needs more stillness." And I'd laugh, thinking she didn't understand the urgency of vision. But she did. She understood more than I did. She saw that my chase for the future was just another way to run from the present. There's an ache that comes with remembering. It's not pain, exactly. It's weight. The weight of moments you didn't know were your last. The final glance before the door closed. The unfinished conversation that lingers like smoke in an empty room. I used to think gravity was only a force that pulled objects together, but it's more than that. It's what pulls your heart backward toward what mattered most, no matter how far you've drifted. I've stood in rooms full of brilliant engineers, innovators, dreamers, but none of them could quiet the echo she left behind. I'd catch myself looking at an empty chair during meetings, remembering how she used to sit cross-legged, sketching stars on napkins as I spoke about Mars. She used to say I made the impossible sound lonely. I didn't understand what she meant until I got there, until I reached the edge of everything and found no one waiting. Sometimes, when the world grows quiet, I drive. No destination, no map. Just the hum of the tires and the sound of my own breathing. I drive past the cafe where she once waited for me on a rainy afternoon. Her hair damp, her eyes soft. I never stopped that day. I told myself I was late for something important. I don't even remember what it was anymore. But I remember her waiting. I always remember her waiting. Memory is cruel that way. It doesn't age. It stays sharp. Like glass. You can hold it carefully, but it still cuts. I've learned that moving forward doesn't mean letting go. It means learning to live with what pulls you back. The truth is, I don't want to forget. Forgetting would be easier, but it would also mean erasing the only proof that I once loved something real. That beneath the machines and the madness, there was a heartbeat that didn't belong to science or success. It belonged to her. She taught me that love isn't a force that fades, it's one that reshapes. It becomes part of you, woven into your thoughts, guiding your silence, haunting your brilliance. Every time I look at the night sky, I don't see stars anymore. I see the moments I lost, burning, beautiful, eternal, reminding me that even light must travel years to reach where it's meant to be. For most of my life, connection was something I could measure: data, signal strength, orbital links. I built systems to bridge worlds, to make distance irrelevant. But the irony was cruel. The more connected I made humanity, the more disconnected I became. I mistook communication for understanding, attention for intimacy, applause for love. And somewhere along the way, I forgot how to simply be with someone. It took losing everything that couldn't be coded to realize what truly matters can't be quantified. There are no metrics for tenderness, no algorithm for presence, no formula for love. You either show up or you don't, and for too long, I didn't. I remember once, during a quiet evening in the lab, when everything else had gone still, the hum of electricity, the blinking of machines, it all faded into the background. One of my engineers had fallen asleep at his desk. He looked exhausted, but peaceful. I stood there and wondered when I last allowed myself that kind of peace. When I last closed my eyes without the weight of the future pressing down on me. That's when I realized connection isn't built on progress. It's built on presence. The older I get, the more I see that the real frontier isn't out there among the stars. It's here in the space between two people who dare to truly see each other, to listen without fixing, to love without conditions, to stay even when the silence gets heavy. I used to build machines that could think. Now I'm learning how to feel again. It's a strange thing to reintroduce yourself to your own humanity after years of hiding behind purpose. But I've come to believe that purpose without heart is just motion without meaning. I've lived inside that motion for too long. Connection, I've learned, doesn't require brilliance. It requires humility. The courage to say, I need you. The honesty to admit, I was wrong. The grace to whisper, I'm still learning. Sometimes I imagine sitting across from her again, no grand speeches, no promises. Just two people who've lived enough to understand that love isn't about possession or perfection. It's about recognition. The quiet miracle of being known. Maybe she wouldn't say a word. Maybe she wouldn't have to. Some connections never end. They simply wait for us to catch up. The truth is, the heart has its own form of gravity. You can resist it for years, build walls of steel and genius around it. But eventually, it pulls you home, not to a place, but to a feeling, the feeling of being understood without having to explain yourself. Every great discovery begins with curiosity, and love is no different. It asks the same questions I once asked of the universe. Is anyone out there? Can you hear me? Do I matter to you? And when love answers even in silence, the entire cosmos feels less infinite. I used to dream of building life on other planets. Now I dream of something simpler, building life with someone, sharing small, sacred moments that make time slow down instead of vanish. A hand held during a storm, a shared glance after a long day, the kind of connection that doesn't need to impress it, just needs to exist. Because maybe connection isn't about changing the world. Maybe it's about finding one person who makes the world feel less empty. And if I've learned anything from all the stars I've chased, it's that the most beautiful light is the one that leads you home. Progress always demands a price. People celebrate the launch, the fire, the roar, the spectacle of ascent, but few ever think about what must burn to lift something into the sky. Every rocket that rises does so on a foundation of sacrifice, of failures buried in silence, of sleepless nights, of hearts left waiting for someone who never came home. I used to think sacrifice was noble. Now I understand it's just another name for loss we try to justify. There's a loneliness that follows every breakthrough. When the cameras fade and the noise dies down, there's nothing left but the echo of your own breathing and the question that never leaves. Was it worth it? I've built empires of innovation, watched machines touch the edge of heaven, but sometimes I wonder if in reaching for the stars, I forgot how to hold what was within reach. She once told me, "You can't save the world if you forget how to live in it." I brushed it off, thinking she didn't understand the scale of what I was trying to do. But she did. She just understood the cost better than I did. She saw that I was trading sunsets for deadlines, laughter for launch windows, love for legacy. And she knew long before I did that the future doesn't feel like victory when you face it alone. I've spent years studying propulsion, understanding how to escape gravity, how to break free, but no one teaches you how to return, how to land softly, how to come back to the life you left behind in the name of progress. The truth is, every ascent leaves something scorched. Some relationships don't survive the re-entry. Some hearts don't either. There was a moment after one of our failures, the Falcon 1 crash, when everything went still. I remember the silence more than the explosion. The silence of people who had given everything, watching it fall apart. I looked around at their faces, then up at the sky, and I realized that progress doesn't ask for permission. It takes, it consumes, it devours, and if you're not careful, it leaves nothing behind but brilliance and ashes. But maybe that's the paradox of creation. To build something that lasts, you must first let parts of yourself disappear. I've sacrificed sleep, love, even fragments of who I used to be, in the hope that humanity might gain a fraction more light. But light always comes at a cost. I sometimes imagine another version of myself, one who stayed, one who didn't chase infinity, who chose dinner over data, her hand over history. Would he be happier? Maybe. But then I think of the faces of the young engineers who dream bigger because they saw a rocket land against all odds. The children who look up at the night sky and whisper, "Maybe we can too." And I realize that legacy isn't about pride. It's about permission, giving others the courage to dream. Still, I wonder what good is changing the world if the world you've changed no longer has the person you loved most. Some nights, I look at the stars and whisper the truth no camera will ever capture. I would trade every launch, every headline, every dollar, just to hear her laugh again. Sacrifice isn't just about what you lose, it's about what you learn to live without. And in that emptiness, you find something rare clarity. The kind that reminds you that progress isn't measured in what we build, but in what we remember not to destroy. Maybe the real test of greatness isn't how high we rise, but how gently we hold the things that can't follow us into the sky. There comes a moment when the pursuit quiets, when the noise of ambition fades into something softer, almost sacred. It doesn't happen in a lab or on a launch pad. It happens in the silence that follows. The silence that once felt unbearable now feels like truth. Maybe this is what transcendence really is, not reaching beyond the stars, but learning to breathe beneath them. For years, I believed progress meant movement forward, upward, faster. But the universe doesn't rush. It expands patiently, endlessly, without asking for applause. I think about that now when I stand under the night sky, how every star burns itself to illuminate others, how creation and destruction coexist so perfectly, neither ashamed of the other. Maybe that's what love is too, the beautiful balance between holding on and letting go. I used to chase infinity like it was a destination. Now I see it for what it is, a mirror. It reflects everything you are and everything you're not. It shows you that even the brightest stars die, but their light travels on carrying their story across time. Perhaps that's what we all are, light still traveling from a love long gone, reaching someone's eyes long after we've faded. There's peace in that thought, that even when we lose, something of us continues. Not in the machines we build, but in the hearts we've touched, the words we've spoken, the lives we've quietly changed. That's legacy, not marble statues or headlines, but the invisible resonance of kindness, of courage, of connection. Sometimes I wonder if I was meant to live this life, this strange intersection between science and soul, between equations and emotion. I've seen things few ever will. A rocket slicing through the dark, the earth curving beneath its fire, the vastness of everything, reminding me how small we really are. But in that smallness, I found something vast humility. There's a stillness in understanding that you can't control everything, not gravity, not time, not love. The universe doesn't bend to willpower, it bends to balance. And when you finally stop fighting that truth, you feel something close to freedom. I used to think transcendence meant escaping pain, but I was wrong. It's about integrating it, carrying it like starlight, not as a wound, but as wisdom. The pain of loss, the loneliness of creation, the ache of distance, they all become part of your orbit, shaping your path, guiding your light. Now, when I speak to the stars, I no longer ask for answers. I just listen, because maybe the silence isn't empty. Maybe it's filled with everything we've ever loved, every dream we've ever dared, every goodbye that still echoes across eternity. And in that listening, I feel her not as absence, but as presence. Not as the one who left, but as the one who remains in the quiet pulse of my heart, in the rhythm of the engines, in the soft hum of the universe, reminding me, nothing truly ends, everything transforms. Maybe that's the secret the cosmos has been whispering all along, that transcendence isn't found in the stars we reach, but in the peace we make with the light we've already become. In the end, it all comes back to silence. Not the hollow kind that once haunted me, but the sacred kind. The kind that holds the sound of everything you've ever loved. The laughter, the failures, the confessions, the launches, the losses, all of it lives here, somewhere between heartbeat and infinity. I used to run from silence because I thought it meant emptiness. Now I understand it's the language of the universe, and maybe the language of love itself. There's no more race now, no countdowns, no checklists. Just breath, just awareness. I look around and see a world still spinning, people still dreaming, rockets still rising, and for once, I don't feel the need to control any of it. Creation has its own rhythm, one that doesn't need my urgency. I think I finally understand what she meant when she said, "Be still." Stillness isn't surrender. It's surrendering the illusion that you ever had control. If I could speak to her now, or maybe to the younger version of myself who mistook chaos for purpose, I'd tell him this: love and progress aren't opposites. They're the same impulse, seen through different hearts. Both are acts of faith, the belief that something greater can exist if we just dare to reach for it. But one reaches outward, and the other reaches inward. And the older I get, the more I realize that both were necessary. All the years I spent chasing the stars taught me how to let go. All the years I spent losing love taught me how to hold on. I once believed that legacy meant leaving something behind, but I see now that it's about what remains within. The quiet courage to love despite impermanence, the grace to forgive yourself for being human, the peace that comes when you stop asking the universe for answers and start hearing your own. I used to look at the night sky and see distance. Now I see reflection, every light a reminder that we are all fragments of the same beginning, all searching for meaning in the same endless dark. That's what connects us. That's what saves us. So, I've made peace with the silence, with the empty spaces that once scared me. Because they're not empty at all, they're full of echoes, of memories, of the quiet hum of love still traveling through time. Somewhere out there, her laughter still moves through the cosmos, soft and unbroken. Somewhere out there, the light we shared is still alive, touching worlds we'll never see. And as I stand beneath the stars, older, quieter, more human than ever, I realize that maybe this was the point all along. Not to conquer the universe, but to feel at home in it. Not to escape loneliness, but to embrace it as proof that you once connected deeply enough to miss someone when they're gone. In the silence between stars, I found what I was chasing all along. Not perfection, not immortality, but peace. Because in the end, the greatest discovery isn't what lies beyond the sky, it's the moment you learn to love the stillness inside your own heart. There's a strange stillness that follows the end of a confession, a quiet where the heart finally exhales. I've spent a lifetime building things that reach the stars, but tonight, I've built something different. A truth that reaches you, not with engines or equations, but with the fragile gravity of honesty. If love is energy, then it never truly fades. It travels endlessly across time and silence, searching for the one heart that can still receive its signal. Maybe that's what this is, my transmission into the infinite, carrying everything I was too afraid to say when the world was loud and the moment was small. I am not a man of perfection. I am a man of persistence, one who has loved, lost, and kept going. Every failure has been a lesson, every heartbreak a launch. And in all the noise of invention and ambition, I've learned that the rarest creation of all is connection, one soul finding another in the vast expanse. So if you're hearing this not with your ears, but with your heart, know that somewhere in this vast, electric universe, love still remembers us. It still drifts between the stars, untouched by time, waiting for alignment. And if this message spoke to something inside you, stay a while. There's more waiting in the silence, more light, more truth, more of the love that outlives even the stars. Because in the end, we don't conquer the cosmos. We become part of it.